There is a truth so simple, so profound, that most people hear it and dismiss it because it sounds too obvious. Yet within it lies the difference between a life of mediocrity and a life of unstoppable greatness. The truth is this: you do not lack ability. You lack consistency. You have imagined your dream. You have glimpsed the life you could live. You have felt that stirring of possibility in your soul that whispers, more is meant for you. And for a moment, just a moment, you believed it. You saw it so clearly that you could almost touch it. But then, as the days went on, that vision faded. Doubt crept in. Old habits returned. You told yourself, maybe it wasn't meant to be. Maybe I don't have what it takes. And yet, deep down, something inside you knew better. Something inside you still believes. That something is your divine imagination, your God-given power to shape your reality. Neville Goddard said, "You are limited only by the weakness of your attention and the poverty of your imagination. It's not that you cannot create. It's that you stop too soon. You imagine the life you want, but you do not stay faithful to the feeling of it long enough for it to become real." So today, I will teach you how to bridge that gap between inspiration and manifestation, between knowing and doing, between your ability and your destiny, because ability, my friends, is not the issue. Consistency is. The power is already within you. Every person in this room is a walking miracle of divine potential. Within you lives the same creative force that brings galaxies into being, that paints sunsets across the sky, that beats your heart without your command. You are not separate from that force. You are an expression of it. You were born with the power to imagine and to manifest, to conceive and to create. But somewhere along the way, society convinced you to trade your divinity for doubt. You were told to be realistic, to play small, to wait for permission. You were told that power existed outside you, in circumstances, in luck, in other people's approval. But Neville reminded us, the world is yourself pushed out. Everything you see, the success, the struggle, the triumph, the trial, it all originates within you. The outer world is nothing more than a reflection of your sustained inner state. You already have the ability. You've always had it. But here's the truth. Ability without consistency is like a seed never watered. It may contain the potential for an oak tree, but unless it is nurtured, day after day, moment after moment, it will never grow. So I ask you, not what you want to achieve, but what are you watering? Because every thought, every emotion, every feeling is a seed you plant in the soil of your subconscious. You cannot plant thoughts of lack and reap abundance. You cannot plant feelings of unworthiness and harvest love. You cannot plant fear and expect faith to blossom. Yet, so many do. They pray for one thing while feeling another. They speak of wealth but feel broke inside. They visualize love but vibrate loneliness. And then they say, this doesn't work. But the truth is, it always works. The law is always working, consistently. It is you who must become consistent in your alignment with it. The law of consistency. The silent architect of destiny. Consistency is not glamorous. It's not loud. It doesn't make headlines. But it's the invisible force behind every success story you've ever admired. Think of the sculptor who chips away at marble, day after day, until the statue emerges. The first strike does not reveal the masterpiece, nor the 10th, nor the 100th, but each strike matters, each one builds upon the last. Consistency is faith in motion. It is saying, even though I do not yet see the result, I will not waver in feeling it real. Neville taught that your imagination is the creative workshop of God. But imagination without consistency is like a spark without fuel. It flares brightly for a moment, then disappears. You say your affirmation once, and expect the universe to rearrange itself overnight. But the universe does not respond to the noise of words. It responds to the constancy of feeling. When you feel it real every day, when you persist in the assumption of the fulfilled desire, you become magnetic to the reality you've imagined. Do you know why so many people fail to manifest? Because they live as emotional tourists. They visit their dream for a few minutes each morning, only to spend the rest of the day dwelling in fear, frustration, or doubt. But manifestation requires residence, not visitation. You cannot dip your toe in abundance and expect to master wealth. You cannot visit self-love and expect to radiate confidence. You must live there, feel there, dwell there. Consistency is not about effort. It's about identity. It's not forcing yourself to do more. It's choosing to become the version of yourself who already has what you seek. Every day, you wake up with a choice to be the person who hopes or the person who knows, the one who reacts to the visible or the one who commands the invisible. The one who lives by sight or the one who lives by faith? Which one will you be? F. The discipline of feeling. How to stay consistent in faith. Consistency is not mechanical repetition. It is emotional discipline. To be consistent is to feel the truth of your desire, even when the outer world gives you every reason to doubt. That's the test. The sacred test every creator must pass. When Neville lost his job, he didn't plead with life to give him another one. He went into the silence, imagined himself gainfully employed, and felt it real. Within days, opportunity appeared, not because he forced it, but because he felt it into being. That is emotional consistency. That is spiritual maturity. You see, the law does not respond to fleeting emotion. It responds to sustained conviction. Imagine a radio transmitter. If you change the frequency every few seconds, no message gets through. But when you hold one frequency steady, the signal becomes clear. Your feelings are the same. They are the frequency by which you communicate with the infinite. You cannot tune into wealth one moment and worry the next and expect clear results. You must remain steady in the feeling of your wish fulfilled. That is why Neville said, persist in the assumption that your desire is already fulfilled, and it will harden into fact. But persistence requires patience. It requires emotional mastery. There will be days when your senses scream, it's not working. There will be moments when everything in your life appears to contradict your desire. In those moments, you must stand firm in the unseen. You must remember that the visible world is the past, the shadow of your old thoughts. The invisible world, your imagination, is the present, the true now, the creative source of what's coming. And when you feel the reality of your desire is already done, not once, not twice, but daily, habitually, faithfully, you will see the invisible become visible. That is the discipline of feeling. That is the mastery of manifestation. The bridge of persistence. Now let us talk about the bridge. The space between imagination and manifestation. This is where most give up. They imagine their dream home, their ideal partner, their thriving business, and for a while they feel inspired. But as the days pass and the outer world shows no change, doubt creeps in. They abandon the feeling, and in doing so, abandon the creation. Yet if they had only persisted, only held the feeling a little longer, the bridge of events would have begun to unfold. Because the law of assumption is precise. Once you assume a state, truly assume it, life rearranges itself to mirror it. But it does so through natural channels, through a bridge of incidents. You do not need to know how. You only need to remain faithful. Neville said, you must dare to assume it true and persist in that assumption. And consistency is daring, not waiting. It is trust, not tension. It is quiet power. You don't beg. You don't chase. You simply remain. And as you remain, the bridge forms. Opportunities arise. People cross your path. Doors open where once there were walls. The bridge is not built by force. It is built by faith. The rhythm of creation. Look at nature. The sun rises and sets every day. Consistently. The ocean tides move with rhythm. Consistently. The heart beats. Consistently. All of life operates on consistency. It is divine order expressed through repetition. So why do we expect our inner world to function any differently? You cannot manifest sporadically and expect continuous results. You cannot believe on Monday and doubt on Tuesday, then wonder why nothing happens. The universe responds to rhythm, not reaction. You must become rhythmic in your faith, predictable in your peace, reliable in your radiance. Let your inner state be as consistent as the sunrise. Because when your inner world becomes steady, the outer world must obey. The difference between motivation and mastery. Motivation is a spark. Consistency is the flame that sustains it. Everyone feels motivated sometimes, after a powerful video, an inspiring book, or a seminar like this one. But motivation fades when emotion fades. Mastery, however, is when you no longer rely on feeling inspired. You simply are the kind of person who does what must be done, who feels what must be felt, regardless of circumstance. You don't need to wait for conditions to be perfect. You create them through consistency. That's why the great ones rise above the average, not because they're more talented, but because they're more faithful. They wake up and align, even when it's hard. They persist in belief, even when the evidence says otherwise, because they know that reality always bends to the one who refuses to bend in feeling. The inner dialogue, guarding the gates of the mind. Consistency begins with awareness of what you repeatedly tell yourself. Every thought you allow to dwell in your mind plants a seed in your subconscious. Your inner dialogue is the architect of your destiny. If you wake up each day and silently repeat, "This is hard. I never get ahead. Nothing works out for me," you are scripting your own future, and your subconscious will deliver accordingly. But if you replace those words with, everything is unfolding in my favor, I am guided, I am capable, I am becoming, then you begin to reprogram your vibration. The shift doesn't happen overnight, but that's where consistency comes in. Each repetition strengthens a new neural pathway. Each moment of awareness reclaims your power. Your inner world is a garden. Tend to it daily. Do not allow weeds of doubt to grow because you forgot to plant faith. Faithfulness. The final test of creation. To be faithful means to hold the feeling of the wish fulfilled, even when everything else tempts you to forget. Faithfulness is the quiet confidence that says, it is done. When you truly believe it is done, you no longer chase, you no longer beg, you no longer check the clock. You simply live as though the promise has already been kept. That, my friends, is the state of divine consistency. And when you reach that state, when your faith becomes as constant as your breath, creation cannot resist you. The universe has no choice but to mirror your steadiness. Because in truth, it is not you who must make things happen. It is your beingness that makes them inevitable. The call to consistency. So I ask you, how long will you waver between two realities? How long will you believe in your dream on Sunday and doubt it by Monday? How long will you talk about what you want instead of feeling it as already yours? Today, make a decision. Not a casual wish, but a sacred vow, to be consistent in your faith, to be consistent in your gratitude, to be consistent in your love. You do not need to be perfect, only persistent. For the law rewards consistency, not occasional brilliance. If you would persist in the assumption of your dream, the universe must conform. So when you wake tomorrow, do not ask, where is my manifestation? Ask, how can I feel it real today? And then feel it, not as effort, but as embodiment. Because you were never lacking in ability. You were only waiting to remember your consistency. And once you do, once you remain faithful to your imagination, unshaken, unwavering, unyielding, nothing in heaven or on earth can stop your destiny from unfolding. So rise, creator. Be consistent. Be faithful. Be unstoppable. For as Neville said, persist, and it will harden into fact. And it always does. Continuation, and the rhythm of faith, and the miracle of steadiness. You see, the greatest secret of creation is not in the moment you decide to believe, but in the moments after. Those quiet, unseen, ordinary days where nothing seems to be happening, yet everything is being formed. That is where most give up. That is where the miracle dies for lack of nourishment. But that is also where the true creators are born. Those who stay faithful not because the evidence is visible, but because the feeling within is immovable. The world teaches you to look for proof, but the law of life teaches you to look for feeling. When you feel something so deeply that it becomes the air you breathe, life bends to reflect it. That is not fantasy, it is divine precision. The outer world is nothing but the echo of your sustained inner conviction. It is the mirror that waits for your consistency to take shape before it reveals your reflection. Faith is the art of inner steadiness. Have you ever stood by the ocean and watched the tide come in? The waves move with rhythm, forward, forward again, but always toward the shore. They do not rush. They do not doubt. They simply follow the rhythm placed within them by the Creator. So must you. You may rise and fall. You may feel forward one day and backward the next. But if you remain consistent in your rhythm, always returning to the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you will reach your destination, just as surely as the tide reaches the sand. Consistency is divine rhythm. When you align with it, you stop chasing outcomes and start becoming them. Because manifestation is not about getting, it is about being. When you become the wealth you desire, the wealth appears. When you become the love you seek, the partner arrives. When you become the peace you long for, chaos dissolves. It has always been this way. The great illusion of life is separation, the belief that you and your desire are apart. But the truth is, they are already one in imagination. And imagination, sustained with consistency, is creation. The quiet power of emotional fidelity. To be consistent is not merely to repeat a practice. It is to remain emotionally loyal to your vision. Ask yourself, what are you emotionally faithful to? Are you faithful to your fears, repeating them daily through worry and complaint? Or are you faithful to your dreams, rehearsing their fulfillment through gratitude and feeling? Because both are acts of faith. The only difference is the direction of your consistency. If you can worry about something every day, you already have the power of consistency. You just need to apply it to belief instead of fear. Worry is the same energy as faith. It's just faith in the wrong outcome. So when you catch yourself fearing, doubting, spiraling, Don't condemn yourself. Simply redirect that energy into creation. Say, if I have the power to imagine this pain so vividly, then I also have the power to imagine my joy. That is the turning point. That is spiritual maturity. Consistency is not about never slipping. It's about always returning. Every time you return to the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you strengthen the bridge between who you are and who you're becoming. And one day, the bridge disappears entirely, because you have crossed it. You have become it. The daily practice of faith is not a grand event. It's a daily rhythm. It is in the moment you wake up and choose gratitude, before your mind remembers your problems. It is in the second you catch yourself complaining and instead whisper, "All is unfolding for my good." It is in the quiet hours before bed when you close your eyes and feel the world as you wish it to be, not as it appears. That is consistency. That is creation. Neville often said, "You must assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled and continue therein." The word continue is everything. It is the difference between a spark and a flame, between momentary inspiration and enduring transformation. Consistency is the invisible bridge that carries desire into reality. And make no mistake, it is not your words that move mountains. It is your sustained feeling that does. Part 2. The spiritual alchemy of consistency. When you learn to be consistent in feeling, you undergo what can only be described as a divine alchemy. You begin to transform fear into faith, effort into ease, struggle into surrender. And soon, you notice that life no longer feels like a battlefield. It feels like a symphony. You stop fighting circumstances because you understand. They are not your enemy, they are your reflection. And if they are your reflection, then the way to change them is not to attack them, but to transform the self that projects them. That transformation happens through consistency. Every day that you hold your inner vision, every night that you feel your dream fulfilled, every time you return to peace despite outer chaos, you are refining your vibration. You are melting away the old self who doubted, feared, and hesitated, and in her place a new self arises, steady, grounded, radiant. This is why Neville said, "The most productive thing you can do is relax." Because true consistency is not forced. It is surrendered. It is resting in the knowing that it is already done. Manifesting wealth through inner constancy. Let us speak of wealth, not as money alone, but as abundance in all forms. Most people approach wealth from lack. They affirm, "I am rich," while feeling poor. They visualize abundance while fearing bills. And then they say the law doesn't work, but the law always works. It mirrors your dominant feeling. To attract wealth, you must feel wealthy. To feel wealthy, you must consistently withdraw your attention from lack. This doesn't mean ignoring reality, it means redefining it. Instead of saying, "I can't afford this," say, "Money flows to me easily. I always have more than enough." Instead of worrying about expenses, bless them. Thank the money for serving you and release it with gratitude, knowing it will return multiplied. Wealth responds to gratitude, not greed, to confidence, not calculation. And when you become consistent in that feeling, when you truly walk as one who already possesses abundance, the outer world must obey, because you can only experience that which you consistently embody. Manifesting love through emotional faithfulness. Now let us speak of love, the deepest desire of the human soul. People often say, "I want someone to love me," but they forget that the only love you can ever experience is the love you first allow within yourself. To manifest love, you must become consistent in self-love. You cannot beg the universe for affection while doubting your worth. You cannot crave connection while criticizing yourself. The law gives you what you believe you are worth. So every day, speak kindly to yourself. Treat yourself as the beloved. Feel what it's like to be cherished, respected, adored. Not someday, but now. When that feeling becomes consistent, love will have no choice but to find you. Because life cannot resist a heart that already beats in harmony with its desire. You do not attract love by searching for it. You attract love by being it. Manifesting purpose through persistent belief. And what of purpose? Purpose is not found, it is remembered. It is already written in your being, waiting for you to believe in it long enough for it to reveal itself. The reason so many feel lost is not because they lack purpose, but because they lack consistency in belief. They start something, then stop when it doesn't bloom overnight. But purpose unfolds gradually, like a sunrise, not a flash of lightning. If you would only stay faithful to your vision, if you would only nurture your calling through seasons of uncertainty, it would unfold before you in divine timing. Every act of consistency brings you closer to clarity, because clarity is not granted to the impatient, it is given to the faithful. Part 2. Divine alignment, becoming the rhythm of creation. Consistency is not just a habit, it is a vibration. It is the frequency of God, the hum of creation, the steady heartbeat of the universe. When you align with it, you no longer move against life. You move with it. And in that movement, miracles become ordinary. You stop asking, when will it happen? And start saying, it already has. You stop questioning, how will it come? And begin trusting. It will come through the perfect channel. This is divine alignment, the state where your inner world and outer world become one harmonious rhythm. You are no longer the seeker. You are the embodiment. You are no longer chasing blessings. You are the source of them. And when you live from that place, life becomes effortless creation. You realize that success is not something you achieve. It's something you remember. Because you were always meant to succeed. You were always meant to create. Consistency simply clears away the fog of doubt that hides your natural divinity. The emotional mastery of stillness. In a world that glorifies business, stillness is rebellion. But in stillness, you hear the whisper of truth. Be still and know that I am God. That is not a command to stop moving. It is an invitation to stop doubting. Stillness is inner consistency. It is peace that does not depend on progress. When you can sit in the middle of uncertainty and still feel certain, when you can smile before the result arrives, then you have mastered consistency. That is the ultimate state of power. Because in that state, you are no longer creating from need, you are creating from knowing. The law never fails. Only your faith wavers. There is a line Neville repeated often. The law never fails. You are free to choose your assumption, but you are not free to avoid its consequences. This means that creation is not random. It is precise. If you assume fear, you manifest situations that justify fear. If you assume abundance, you manifest situations that confirm abundance. The law is not emotional, it is exact. But it responds instantly to emotional consistency. So when you finally decide to stay loyal to your desired state, reality must yield. It cannot resist a mind that no longer contradicts itself. That is when manifestations appear suddenly, miraculously, as if from nowhere. But it's not a miracle. It's mathematics. Divine mathematics. The moment of realization, and one day, it will happen quietly. You will wake up and realize you are living what you once imagined. You'll look around and smile, not in surprise, but in remembrance. Because somewhere deep down, you always knew this day would come. You were simply faithful long enough to see it. You didn't force it. You didn't chase it. You simply felt it, lived it, loved it, until it became you. And when that happens, when you stand in the fulfillment of what once was only a dream, you will understand the true meaning of Neville's words. You do not attract what you want, you attract what you are. You became it. You stayed consistent in being it. And so, it appeared. Final call. The courage to continue. So, if you take nothing else from today, take this: you have everything you need. You are not missing talent. You are not missing opportunity. You are not missing luck. You are missing consistency. The sacred habit of remaining faithful to your vision, no matter what your senses say. If you can master that, you will master life itself. So tomorrow morning, when you wake, don't wait for motivation. Go into the silence. Feel your wish fulfilled. Walk as though it is already yours. And when doubt returns, and it will, smile, because now you know what to do. Return. Return again and again to the feeling of your fulfilled desire. Stay there until it becomes your home. And when it does, when consistency becomes your natural state, when faith becomes your breath, the whole universe will rearrange itself to match your vibration. That is the power of divine steadiness. That is the essence of creation. That is the truth Neville Goddard gave us. You lack nothing. You lack no power. You lack no potential. You only lack consistency. And once you have that, once you decide that you will never waver again, every dream you have ever held will bow before your faith. So stay steady, stay faithful, stay divine. For everything you have ever wanted is already yours.